Everybody, a warm welcome. It is a huge pleasure to be back for our third version, our third session talk. I can't tell you how happy I am to see our audience growing, to have the amazing feedback that we've received to date, and to have another incredible panel of close friends and partners that we've known each other for a long time. And I think it's my favorite, without doubt, my favorite moment of this whole madness that we're living is being able to be together with my friends through these talks and through these webinars and making the best out of our new reality. So firstly, I want to, again, thank our audience. So we've had a support from the travel community, travel agents, ICs, DMCs. If you're a hotel owner, a journalist, a restaurant owner, I thank you very much for joining us. If you're an avid traveler, why not get ready to start traveling as soon as possible. For those that do not know me, my name is Tina Lira. I'm the founder of TL Portfolio. I opened my company 8 years ago. I am Brazilian, American, and I'm Czech. So I probably identify with a good majority. I grew up in Mexico, so I'm very much Latin as well. So thank you again for coming. I'm going to go ahead and introduce our panel. I'm going to start with, as we call her, La Reina, the queen, the grande dame of travel, Valerie Wilson. It is an immense pleasure to have you here. I am very fortunate to have known Valerie now for probably 20 years. It's incredible to have her friendship and her support during so long. So Valerie has been in the market for over 35 years. She runs Valerie Wilson Travel, which is a powerhouse out of New York, along with her daughters, Jennifer and Kimberly. I have to share that apart from this professional and elegant woman you see, Valerie and I go back about 20 years, and I can attest to being with Valerie 20 years ago in Washington, cooking in the middle of an industrial kitchen along with prisoners for the homeless. And believe it or not, she looked exactly like you see her. We had these massive industrial pans and not one hair moved. I mean, the woman is impeccable, even in the craziest situations. So it's an immense pleasure to have Valerie here. Thank you so much. It means the world to me. Filip, also a global leader in travel. He has a career that spans over 3 decades. Currently, he is the CEO of Forbes Travel Guide. He was the former CEO of Small Luxury Hotels. And before that, he spent 18 years with Orient Express, now known as Belmond. I think most importantly, above all the professional credit, is the machine and the passion he has for enjoying life, both inside and out of work. And if you know Filip, you know that the energy goes way beyond 6 or 7 o'clock at night. And I keep telling them that hopefully we'll be able to hit the dance floor as soon as possible. So thanks, Filip. It's a pleasure to have you here. I want to also a face that maybe not everybody knows, Sylvio de Barros. Sylvio is Brazilian. He is an icon in the technology and automobile industry. He was an executive with many multinationals such as GM, Chevrolet, Volkswagen, and he was the founder of Web Motors. Web Motors was launched at the time, I would say, pre-internet boom, and became for sure one of the most important portals in Brazil. He then sold it to Itaú, probably Brazil's biggest bank, and went ahead to open a competitor, I would say, another very important portal called Web Motors, who became then quickly probably even a bigger success story. So today, Sylvio de Barros is an investor. He continues to be an entrepreneur with his fingers on many businesses. And one of the reasons I wanted to bring Sylvio to this panel is I think that he enriches our conversation, having the role not only of somebody that is in the world of technology, that is a world that we're all looking at and trying to learn from, but he is the perfect example of the avid traveler. And so I think it's important that we have somebody that's our real objective, right? Is speaking and understanding who is the avid traveler of tomorrow. He is a client of my husband's travel agency, so he appreciates our market, and he's going to bring us a perspective from the outside of the industry. So Sylvio, muito obrigada. Thank you for being here with us. It's a huge pleasure.
Pleasure.
Another huge friend, somebody I admire greatly, Zach. Zach is for sure what we would call Valerie La Reina of US travel. Here we have El Rey de Mexico. There's no doubt that when you think about luxury travel and you think about Mexico, there's one guy, and that's Zach. So it's a huge pleasure, Zach. Thank you for joining us. I think apart from your incredible professionalism, you have received accolades that go on. I think any title anybody could fathom, from Travel and Leisure to Condé Nast to National Geographic to Travesía. So thank you, amigo, for being here. And we're very excited to have your contribution as well. You may have all noticed we're missing one very dear friend, Chris Blackwell. And I'm going to play a little video on his behalf, and then I'll go ahead to share a little bit of news on him. So I'm going to steal 3 minutes of you, if you could bear with me and watch a little video, which I think is going to help us appreciate where he is.
I'm so shy, I can't even look at the camera.
Cut! You're such a lie. Come close to the camera.
It's me.
Millie Small, the Jamaican singer who lit the fuse for the 1960s ska explosion, has died at the age of 73 after suffering a stroke. Chris Blackwell, Island Records founder, who brought Small to London in 1963 and produced her version of My Boy Lollipop, announced her death and remembered her as a sweet person, really special.
Mr. Blackwell, we would like to induct you to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. You deserve it, because you built it.
I don't view the artist as my asset. You know, it's more I had an opportunity to work with them and help them grow. When you're not thinking necessarily of immediate success, but you're thinking of a long-term asset, it leaves that space totally open.
So it's just a few minutes to share a little bit of Chris's incredible history. As you may know, Chris is an icon in the music industry, and he started his career with Millie Small in 1963. She was one of the most important talents he had on board. She passed away this week. He called me yesterday, and he is mourning her loss. And he, sends his love, and he will be with us in one of our future talks. But for anybody that's doubting, it had nothing to do with the coronavirus. Her time came, and we send Chris all our love, and I'm sure he will get past this, and he will be with us very shortly. So I'm going to move on then and go over some of the questions. And for those of you that are with us for the first time, the way that we work our panel and our talks is we've approached I would call the top journalists from both North and South America. We now have also a journalist from the UK to send us the questions and get the word and the vibe from the international market. I think it's more credible than me creating questions. And so I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit about the media outlets that are sending these questions, and then address it individually to the panel. So starting with ladies first, Valerie. I have a question from you for Estadão, which is the online version of the largest and most important newspaper in Brazil, with unique visitors per month of 8.7 million. So Valerie, according to what we hear from specialists, the luxury market will likely be responsible for saving the travel industry in the short term. Do you believe this will happen, and why?
Tina, first of all, thank you for inviting me to join you today. And since I probably have been at the travel business longer than anybody here, next year starts the 40th anniversary of Valerie Wilson Travel. So I am sort of outspoken about luxury and about lifestyle. And my word today would be, let's all dream together. It's time to set the dreams in motion, whether you call it your bucket list or your dream list or your wander list or your wonder list. I think all of those explain the joys of traveling. And although certainly our business has been greatly affected, it came to a sudden halt 2 months ago. Most of us in the business couldn't even imagine within 2 days the world stopping traveling, but it certainly happened. But the beauty is that we, I think, are in the beginning of recovery. We're getting a few reservations these days. And last week, I actually thought there was a mistake on a report I was looking at because it was a $500,000 for one booking. And I immediately called the accounting department and said, how many times was this invoiced? It's not possible. And of course, they immediately informed me I was wrong. It is a private booking for early next year at Necker Island, taking it over. And I said, hallelujah, we're back to business. So everybody needs to dream and realize that the luxury market definitely is the trendsetter, and it always has been. Travel is part of everybody's lifestyle today, and all of us on this panel are particularly fond of luxury. So I'll keep it in the luxury travel market for myself. And as a proud member of Virtuoso, I couldn't say it more strongly than we should all be out there traveling soon.
I am sure everybody vibrates with every word that you're saying, and I couldn't agree more. I was speaking to a partner in Morocco this morning, and he was also saying that the bookings he's seeing, though the volume may have dropped, the average price has gone up. So I think people are focusing their travel to one destination maybe, but for sure, it doesn't look like there's any indication that luxury travel is going to stop for sure.
We're actually beginning to see corporate travel again, and London being the #1 international city for us always. It's wonderful to see that corporate's starting to come back as well. Slowly,
well, that's fantastic. And that's one of the things that a lot of people are concerned about. And Filip is in London, so he'll be the next one that I'll hit with a question. This question, Filip, is from Folha de São Paulo. It's a national daily newspaper in Brazil with the largest circulation in the country. It has 1.5 million readers per month. And the question is, with your vast experience in defining the standards in luxury hospitality, could you share with us your perception of the new normal as it pertains to the luxury industry?
First of all, Tina, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm so honored to be with all my talented colleagues on this panel. So yes, at Forbes Travel Guide, what do? We verify luxury. And why do we do that? We do it to champion, support, and celebrate all those with a passion for exceptional service. So what we do is we support the industry, and we are not there to punish them, and certainly not to tell them what to do. We constantly adjust our standards, adapt them, and continue to be flexible, especially in this COVID-19 situation. We fully understand that in this situation, not all services can be delivered and can be available. So our inspectors will mark these services as not applicable. So there's no negative impact on the hotel, the restaurant, or the spa's inspection scores. We are all about how does a hotel make their customers feel, the emotional aspects of service. And the winners, I believe, in this new normal will be those who adjust and adapt the interaction with the guest without losing the all-important human connection. We'll be looking very closely at the delivery of exceptional guest experiences, even during this difficult time. Keeping guests and employees safe is, of course, the #1 priority. And I like that the hotels and the brands and the spa companies have been incredibly transparent with their new COVID-19 procedures and protocols. And I think that this will certainly help to ease the insecurity and the anxiety of the guests. These measures, some of them seem disruptive, but I can assure you that cleaning and hygiene practices will now be in the forefront. They will not be in the background where they used to be. And I think it will actually be a confidence boost for guests to actually see these practices happening in real time. Thank you.
No, I think you're right. And I think one of the amazing things is that you have a very aggressive and very clear job currently, right? That you've talked to me about what you're doing with the GMs right now, that I'm sure hotels are thinking, Philip, I have all this amazing leadership right now with me. What do we do with them? And I think you've been very proactive in making the best of now.
Well, we felt in this situation and in our spirit of supporting the industry that we needed to continue to do that now, and especially when they need us most. So what we've done is we put a series together of 10 complimentary webinars. And this was especially targeted at furloughed and laid off employees in the hospitality business. And we're reaching about 7,000 to 8,000 of those people. And obviously we have the email addresses, so we can see there's a lot of personal email addresses. So I'm very happy that we're reaching the target that we wanted. And it's been going very well. So what we wanted was to keep those people connected with their passion, that is service, to keep them connected, keep learning, and to be in a stronger position when the recovery comes and they all hopefully will get their jobs back. But we will continue that for the foreseeable future until the end of June. And we're also putting in some, we're thinking currently about putting a webinar in to relieve anxiety and worrying, because a lot of the people I speak to are very anxious. They worry much too much, sometimes about things they can't control. But anyway, we're here to support, and this is the big message, that we are continuing to do that.
No, phenomenal, phenomenal. If anybody has anything to say, please jump in. It's feel free to speak. But I think you're doing a phenomenal job, and it's nice to see this proactiveness during these times. We have a question for Sylvio from Made Magazine in Brazil, which is a glossy lifestyle magazine focused on fashion, architecture, design, gastronomy, and travel, with a circulation of about 40,000 issues a month. Sylvio, considering hotels and destinations, how should they be sold in the new world post-COVID-19, when guests will want to know the property more in depth prior to being at the location? Do you foresee virtual reality and 5G may have an important role in the pre-travel experience beyond just photography and video? And I can't think of a better person to answer this than Mr. Technology himself.
Hi, Gina. Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to discuss our future. Yeah, I think the beauty of traveling, I'm passionate about traveling, is the prior to travel, you're always planning and always taking a look at images. We've been doing that in this period. Everybody is at home looking at their memories, and a lot of memories, it's about traveling, and they're planning the next travel. So I think it's very important, and we've been talking about that. A lot of sectors, every area, every business has to be their own online channel right now, established with a lot of focus. And I can think about traveling without that also. And 5G will be really important. We've been flirting with the technology for a long time. I've been in the digital industry for 20 years, since the not broadband environment, and it will be completely different, but it's not there yet. One of the great things that is happening right now is that we have in place digital platform well distributed for everybody. So it's still fantastic. the infrastructure that we have today for doing online business, for talking with your clients and make them dreaming about the next travel after these things happen. So I can't think for a better way to do so than the digital platform.
And we were talking earlier on, and you were saying that the 5G experience is going to be so advanced, because when we think of virtual reality, and we've all seen virtual reality trying to, creep its way into luxury travel, it leaves a lot to be desired. It's an experience that's so far from reality that it's not an add-on. And we were talking, you mentioned that 5G is actually going to be hard to distinguish, right?
Yeah, actually, we're going to see the blended reality is one of the companies that we invest in LA. We are having some amazing projects, and this field of blended reality, when you bring digital structure, digital actors to the real life, to the real world, and when you bring the digital world to the real world, to the digital world. So we'll have a point when it's hard to see when it's real or not, because we'll have low latency, which is what we have right now. Is the delay with the image and the sound that we have in the actual platform. But in 5G, we will not have that. It's not. I think the first experience of 5G will be in Dubai next year with Expo 2020. Used to be Expo 2020. In October, it will be Expo 2021. I think this will be the first city in Dubai with the real 5G in place. We have a lot of countries. We hope we have this fair going on next year, and that will be a fantastic experience to understand what we can do with the 5G in the future. And yes, you can. I think the point is, if your client, your consumer cannot go to see your product, you have to bring your product to them. So, and it's amazing what we can do with the virtual reality and augmented reality, and bringing this hotel experience or the structure or the information that we need to know prior to our trip, and to them, for them to plan their trip.
No, it's fantastic to hear from you, because one of the things that is bouncing around within our circle is, if it's time to talk about travel, is it a taboo to talk about travel? And I think what you said is very true. You're living right now, you're living your memories, and people in the travel industry, travel is 90% of their memories. Their best memories are done when they're traveling, and that's where you have your best photos and your best moments. And I think what you said is key, that we're living our memories right now, and that is the moment to travel. And I'm glad to hear about the development in technology. It's very exciting. I will be picking your brain. I already told you after the call, and for quite a long time. It's very interesting. Zach, I have a question for you from Argentina, from Revista Alta, which is the official magazine for Aerolíneas Argentinas, with a circulation of 70,000. So we believe that a global trend in travel will be for people to seek more isolated destinations where they will have less contact with other guests and will therefore feel more protected. What measures should a hotel need to take to make people feel safer and more confident when planning their trip once travel is back?
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you, Tina. So great to be here with this very esteemed panel. Nice to see you all, Val, Philip. Nice to meet you, Sylvio. So hello, everyone from Mexico. I think it's a great question. And it's interesting because there's always different realities, right? There's the reality of perception and what people will need to get over that hump to feel safe and comfortable. And then there's the reality that is what really happens, right? And I personally think, just on a 30,000 foot level, that by the time people are really ready to pull that trigger, they're ready to travel, they're probably now have returned to work. They're probably going into offices. They're going on public transportation, the subway, taxis, whatever it is. I think the reality is people, when they decide that they're going to do that, even if it means in a private plane going to an airport, they then have to get out of that airport and they have to go into a vehicle and they have to, all these little touch points and interactions. So the truth is, I think that while we're all busy developing these incredible protocols, and trust me, we are very busy with everything from plexiglass shields in vehicles to the masks and gloves and the gel and the sanitizer and all of that. I'm curious to see whether it's really more of a tool to get people over that hump and get confident and safe to travel, or whether it will really be important on an operational level. All of that said, I do think that the initial phase will be to remote areas. We need to have all of these protocols in place. I think we've all seen the Emirates ads with, you know, the full hazmat suits of the flight attendants, and we're thinking, are we really gonna, you know, get the kids up and get on those planes like with hazmat suits on, right? But we need to do this. It's part of the process. We need to reinstill confidence in people. I think a big part of that too is that the entire trade together, the hotels, the DMCs, the travel advisors, we all need to work together, because it's much more than one product. It's a whole experience that's going to go from the dreaming, as Sylvio said, to the purchasing, which is not going to be a purchase or a transaction. It's going to be a consultation with experts, and that chain of expertise and knowledge will flow from the hotels to the DMCs, to the travel advisors, to the traveler. I think we're going to be more important than ever in that sense. And yeah, I think in my particular case, right, we are very experienced in Mexico in battling with an image of, you know, even though we all know it's not true, an image of a country that's not safe or not healthy, right? People's fears about Mexico are that it's dangerous and I'm going to get sick. So we're old hands at instilling confidence in people that actually, this is the thing, these are the things we do, these are the protocols we do. We're going to take care of you and keep you safe. And I think many of our destinations have that, and we're going to do even more to make our guests feel safe and protected when they're ready to travel.
And I think you said something, a very important message, which at the end of the day, it's about sending out a message that people can feel we will take care of you and you will be safe. And I think at the end of the day, when the time comes, whoever is able to evoke that passion, that energy, that positive look, it's a lot more, it's through all these procedures, but I think it's through the passion that Filip was talking about. You know, with our passion and our service and our relationships, you evoke that feeling of a virtual hug, of feeling taken care of. And that's what's going to drive where you go, right? I said it on my last talks, and I think it's true. You go to be with people that you trust, who you know they take care of you. And it's as simple as that. Everything else is secondary. And thank God we're in an industry of people, relationship, friends, and we're surrounded by them. So that's, to me, the most exciting part of this whole situation, is reconnecting, which we're doing here with you guys, and having that bond. And at the end, especially in the luxury industry, we have one phone call away. We have somebody at the other end of the phone that has the local expertise that can help us connect the dots, and can evoke that trust. So I think it's very important, and I couldn't agree with you more. I'm going to go back to Valerie. I have a question from Viagem Gastronomia. This is an influential website about travel and food with a circulation of 200,000 unique visitors per month. It is owned by a very good friend and partner, Daniela Filomeno. So apparently borders will remain closed until at least September. Having said that, we're already seeing hotel openings, and I'll give an example of that. Well, this week, we've been seeing La Reserve opening up all their properties, which is very exciting. This is certainly a positive movement towards the beginning of the domestic travel recovery. As we expect, this will happen globally as a first step. How do you see this progression? And more specifically, how do you see it as it pertains to New York, which is such an important global hub?
Lots of questions in there, Tina. I think I should probably start by saying I am a Midwesterner by birth and education. And living in the state of Iowa until I went to college in Boston, everybody would think that I was a typical Midwestern farm girl wearing jeans. I never owned jeans. I've never owned a pair ever. But this year, we've got a couple of meetings that are going to take place out in the western part of the United States on dude ranches and other things, horse ranches, which are going to force me to buy a pair of blue jeans.
No way.
Yep.
There is a change. That's a revolution.
I'm not
right
sure I
there.
can handle it yet. I think I'm too old to do this, but I said I would do it. So there's always an opportunity to realize that the borders are not closed. There's something new for each of us to explore, to find out about, to dream about, to read about, to listen to various not promotional, but storytelling, I guess is the best way to put it. Whether it's within the grounds and areas where each of us are residing today, and then go to the bigger picture, because this too will end. It may be the first world pandemic is the new phrase in 100 years, but it reminds me of my mother telling a story because her own birth mother died with the Spanish influenza in 1918. So it's almost exactly 100 years later.
Wow.
And when we think of what has happened in those 100 years and how travel has literally become a major part of everybody's existence. And it doesn't matter which sector of business you're in, whether it's luxury like we love, or traveling on Route 66 in the West, which of course I've never done. But the borders are there for a reason currently, and we have to live with the rules and the government, because everybody is trying to protect we, the human beings who love what we do and love sharing our knowledge and our experiences. So I have no hesitation that sooner than we realize those borders will open up. And I'm already 2 months literally isolated in my apartment and thinking, I can't take this. I'm used to traveling at least internationally every 6 weeks. So I'm going crazy.
You and all the rest of us, for sure. And I think that one of the things that's very true when you talk about borders, and this is something I've spoken to many of our friends in travel, and it's, I think, important to consider, those that were, scared of traveling and concerned are going to remain concerned. And those of us who are adventurous and keen and go-getters, we can't wait for the gates to open for us to, run at the plane. So I think that's the reality of it, right? Things don't change too much. Philip, I'm going to ask you a curveball here because you're, CEO material, so you're accustomed to curveballs. I wanted to ask you something that you're not ready for, but that's okay. People are talking about the traveling to escape the mask. And this is a question and a conversation I had recently. Because, until we have a vaccine, the mask is going to be almost something we want to get away from. How do you see that?
I don't think so, Tina. I think the mask is one of the protective measures that is actually very important. And you see in all the guidelines and protocols that the big brands and hotels are circulating now and posting online, masks are always part of it. In my opinion, we should take this with a bit of humor, and we should paint a big fat smile on each mask, right? And make sure that we make the guest laugh, because that takes the tension out of the whole situation. But I think it will be part of the foreseeable future, hopefully as short as humanly possible, but I think it will be part of it.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I agree. I love the idea of a big smile. And I think one of the things that people will be more and more accustomed to is to smiling with your eyes, is what they say. And I think it's very, very powerful as well. So that'll be an interesting.
And some people, like the nurses do in the hospitals, they put, instead of a name badge, they put a picture of themselves smiling. So the guests can imagine the face when they're smiling. That's another possibility.
Very nice.
Tina,
so
I'm not wearing a mask, although I own one. I'm wearing my collection of Hermes scarves, and I just tie it around and I look like a bandit. Can I still come, Philippe?
Valerie, you will always find the most elegant way to do it. I have no doubt. And even those that didn't know you before, by the end of this talk, they will all fall in love with the Valerie way because it's unique. And so it's so nice to have you here.
Philippe didn't answer if I could come visit without a mask.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. We won't punish the hotel for that. Don't worry.
I'm going to ask Sylvio a question that I think is very, very close to everybody's heart. It's also from Folha de São Paulo. And I think he can answer this as the avid traveler. Do you believe that courage to travel again will be a natural progress in people? Will people naturally gravitate towards traveling again? And how much will fear possibly delay that?
I think we, am I first, Philip, or you? Can I go?
No,
go
you
ahead. Go ahead, please.
Yes, I think we'll rely more on you guys, on the specialists. I think it's time. The world is relying on the specialists. We are learning. We have to learn fast what is happening, what is going on. The new normal on traveling will be a different thing that we don't know. We don't know if you're going to need a passport, if you're going to need some health things on the place we go. I used to travel like Zach to boats doing surf trips, and we always have a doctor on board. It was important for us to feel safe if something's happened in a remote place, that we have a doctor with us, because we can get hurt on surf trips. So I think we need to rely on the specialists more than ever, on you guys, on the industry, and how to navigate in this new way of traveling, in the new normal. But definitely, we are desperately to start to traveling again. And that's my priority in life. I have the best moments with my family, traveling, discovering new places in the world. And we need to rely on the specialists to continue to do so in the new normal.
And I'm very happy to hear that. I think, again, the silver lining here to this whole situation, everybody at one point was concerned that the middleman would be traded for the internet. And I think this current situation gave that possibility a slap in the face, because everybody that was traveling without a professional got stuck and was hating themselves for doing it. And I think it's a big lesson, and it's going to help the travel industry come back stronger than ever. And you, as the traveler, saying that is very encouraging for all of us. And I think that's important for people to remember that, and not let the bad news overshadow this reality, which is very positive for all of us. Zach, from Jigger in Chile, which is a glossy magazine aimed at the jet setter with about 35,000, a circulation of 35,000 per month. Considering your view of how the Mexican market is reacting to the current situation, what would be the best strategy to reactivate tourism markets during the period of isolation and pandemic? So looking at today, and also which would be the best communication platform to invest in today?
Sure. So first of all, interestingly, like Valerie said, just yesterday, we closed a large booking for a Mexican client traveling from Mexico City, flying on a private jet into Puerto Vallarta to a villa in Punta de Mita for June. Okay. Wow. So, the desire, the demand to travel, the dream of travel it's not just alive, it's, excuse the words, people are dying to travel. And it's the only thing on the mind of our clients. Travel is no longer an option or something leisure. It's a birthright. People need to travel. And so as far as the Mexican market goes, I think that this type of private homes and villas, and how to activate it. I think it's the same way that Mexicans always do business, which is it's the personal relationship, it's the phone call or Zoom calls now. But just they want to know the details. And I think that Mexicans are much less worried about the face masks and the gloves. I think when they decide they're going to travel, they're going to travel, and they don't care about that stuff, and they're going to go. So yeah, I think it's doing exactly what we're all doing, what we've been doing, is staying front and center and close to our clients. It's stoking their dreams and discussing them, if not in a pushy way, just responding, let them take the lead. If they're asking you for product, well then sure, here it is. And if not, we can just talk about those dreams further out. As far as the platforms, I think that the question is intended kind of the digital, how does our digital life change through this experience, and where is it going? Whether it's Instagram or Facebook or any number of these different platforms, Zoom now and other ways we're communicating, I think what's important to note is more the content than which one in particular. And I see just a lot more honest, authentic, this is a humbling experience. We got socked, right? All of us. I don't care how smiling and happy we want to put on our faces, but we got whooped, and we're all kind of smarting right now, right? So, people are getting out there on video messages and admitting, okay, you knocked me down, but we're going to get back up. So I think that is more than the platform, it's the content, that we're going to be more real, we're going to be more honest, we're going to focus on the priorities and the values that we have and that we've had loads of time to think about and to affirm throughout this experience.
Yeah, and I like that. I like the idea of the whooped, adjective. And I think that what you said is right, is keeping people, connected and excited and dreaming. And I think one of the messages you gave is very important, is understanding what phase everybody's at, because you can have one client that's still feeling whooped, that's still feeling a bit, lost and not yet ready to dream. You will have another one like Sylvio that is avidly dreaming, like, he's just waiting for it to get on a plane, and is much more open to looking at, let's talk about travel, let's talk about destinations, let's look about dates. And so, you really have to be open to looking at who is your audience, who are you speaking to, and not treating everybody in the same, because people go through these phases differently.
By the way, I think it's really important, Tina, that the first travelers, right? These pioneers who are the first ones who are going to go into the airports and let's tell those stories. Let's get them to talk about, what, it wasn't so bad. We have a colleague, our CRO, Brady, who had to travel from Puerto Vallarta 2 days ago to his parents' home in Indiana. And, he led us through the whole thing on WhatsApp with videos, with pictures. And we all kind of said, like, he did it, like, he's alive. It worked, so I think that's really important too, to keep that dream alive. People want to know, like, well, how does it really work? Like, what's the nitty gritty? What are the details? Like, what was it like? Were there a lot of people on the plane? Were the lines, social distancing, the masks, all of it? So I think we've just got to wander through this together. It's going to be kind of like a clumsy prom dance, but we'll step on each other's feet a little bit and then we'll get on to it.
I can't imagine you had a clumsy prom dance. That picture just doesn't hit. Sorry, Zach, nice try. No. But the suave thing is way above this stepping on people's feet. But yes, I agree with you. There's definitely going to be a relearning and readjustment for sure.
Tina, I'd like to jump in on Zach's remark, because it basically is our responsibility to help uplift people to think about traveling and learning something or discovering something. Maybe that's naivete of me and a Midwesterner, but I can remember my grandfather sitting and telling me stories about taking the wagon train west. And I'll never forget those stories, even if they were surrounded by Indians. And I said, well, Grandpa, at least you survived to tell the story. We've survived this, and it's our responsibility to generate the excitement and to say that cannot be fear. It should be fun to be an explorer again. Let's do something new.
I think
absolutely, Valerie, I totally agree. Tina, you were talking about courage earlier on, and as we know, confidence is low for the moment, and we're all responsible to build that confidence and that courage for people to travel again. And we all, every segment of this industry, is going to, I'm 100% sure, is going to be sending the right messages, positivity, excitement. And that's the only way we're going to get that confidence and that courage to travel back. So Valerie is absolutely spot on.
Thank you.
Yeah, Valerie, we have some people saying Valerie for president. You know, there's a big opening there, and we all need them. Many countries are in desperate need. So, hey, you know, transformation.
I'll stick with travel.
I wanted to dive in, and I want to ask this question for all of you, because this is a question, and we have so many questions from such an array of amazing journalists. But I'm going to throw one that I think is very dear to me. It's a question from Business Traveler magazine in the UK, from Tom Otley, who's the editor. And I'm going to ask the question, and I'll tell you why it's important to me. But the question is, do you think the pandemic will increase visitors' awareness of environmental concerns and influence their behavior when deciding on hotels, resorts, destinations, and modes of transportation? And the reason why this question is so important to me is because as I plan these talks, I have been reaching out to, you know, very influential people. And last week I was speaking to Al Gore, Vice President of the United States, Al Gore's team on climate change. And one of the things that they told me, which for me was shocking, is that we're all appreciating the fact that the world is, you know, enjoying this break from humanity, and the environment is coming back, and the waters in Venice are more, you know, are more clear than ever, and the sky is bluer than ever, and it's all beautiful. But one of the things that they told me that for me was shocking was that China, who was in quarantine for 3 months, similar to all of the rest of the world, they are already very active and back into their domestic travel market. And they were saying that in a question of about a week, their pollution and, you know, environmental impact in 1 week of being back to normal is exactly the same as the day before the quarantine, meaning nothing changed. It was almost like all of this being in vain and us not learning anything from them. And so I want us to all reflect on this question, and I'm putting it to all of you because I don't want that to happen. And I think that in many of the talks I've been having with people outside the industry, you know, they'll keep saying, you know, I think right now the hotels have to change their procedures or companies have to change. But the bottom line is that if we don't change, you know, each one of us something, we will all fall back into the life of yesterday. And it would mean going through all this stress and all this crisis in vain, at least as it pertains to the environment. We can't allow ourselves to go back to the how it was yesterday. And I think it's also an important moment that we look at as hoteliers, as travelers, to say, you know, how can I contribute? How can I be proud of traveling after all this is over, so that I can say I am traveling. I'm not ashamed of it. The fact that, you know, yes, people might be unemployed, and yes, there's a hardship in many people, but I'm proud of traveling because by traveling, I am supporting this community. I am helping the environment in this way. And so I wanted to hear from you as to how you feel that being absorbed within travel and within all of us. Anybody who wants to start, I'll throw it out there.
I'll jump in, Tina. This is a subject that's really close to my heart, and I studied sustainable travel and spoke at UN conferences on it and did research. And I think it's a really tricky subject because, I mean, a lot of people are saying that the initial priorities are all about safety, both physical health and financial, right? We need to get our protocols in place, we need to keep people healthy, and we need to protect their money, right? Because that's what people are most injured right now. And so that doesn't leave a lot of room on the decision-making scale for environment. That said, I think that we all need to, not just personally, but we need to champion the idea that this was a little smack on the wrist. This was a warning. And that if we don't heed it about the deeply skewed values and the way that we're living, and especially with regards to the environment, we're going to get the real full weight and fury of something much worse. And you know, maybe instead of 75% of the planet covered by oceans, 95% will be covered by oceans, and we'll all be clinging to that mountaintop, wondering why didn't we heed the warnings, right? So I'm hopeful, but the hope is not a strategy. And I think the strategy is, how do we weave this into our lives, in a meaningful way our businesses, the way we do everything. From the choices we make as consumers, the way we run our businesses, the way we educate our clients and our suppliers. We can do it, but we have to dedicate and invest time and money. And there's always something that has a better return in the short term. So in addition to upgrading our cloud systems and our booking systems and implementing Access and all these other things we're all doing, these backburnered projects that we're finally getting to in this downtime, figure out your sustainability policy, both for your business and for your life.
And time we have, so 50% of that, everybody has is time. Money is another question, but time right now we all have. Anybody else want to dive into that? I don't know if, I know it's a hard one.
I think it's, go ahead, Sylvio.
No, Valerie, I can't go in front of you. Please, you.
I was going to say that it has been a subject of luxury travel for as long as I've been in this business. As I said, it's almost 40 years. And there's a very fine line and a difficult line often when how to incorporate the environment or sustainability or doing good for other people. Since I spent a great deal of my adult life raising money for various organizations, because I called myself a non-paid professional fundraiser before I started Valerie Wilson Travel. It's a very sensitive subject with me, and I think it becomes a personal subject. And each individual listening today, I hope, listens to what Zach said. What can you do to improve your community or a place or taking a trip? What can you do to help that community? Because it is a personal decision, and somehow we need to make sure that it's mentioned, but it doesn't become the overriding emphasis on travel. So I loved creating plans when I'm on an Abercrombie and Kent tour, whether I'm in Southeast Asia or I'm in Kenya. And they had a water problem. So I asked the advisory board, I said, can't we give the money to build this first well in this very large village in Kenya? The board agreed to it. We now have guests and family members who have gone and built other wells. So there are 40,000 people living in this village area community who live with one freshwater well. All I could think about was the death of all those children and all those people without fresh water. So it is our responsibility in
I agree.
Small ways, but the small ways can become bigger.
I agree.
And build on what Valerie said about social responsibility. Let's not forget, and let's give these hotels and restaurants a huge shout out, because the amazing work that has gone on during this pandemic. A couple of examples: Four Seasons New York opening their hotels for health workers. Hilton giving 1 million rooms away to health workers. Marriott, Accor giving thousands of rooms to poor people. The Connaught or the Barclay here in London, they're all helping. They're doing incredible jobs. So that's also part of the effort that has gone on. And sometimes that's forgotten, right? But when it comes to sustainability, Tina, we're in a bit of a difficult situation, right? Because sustainability, as Valerie said, is amazingly strong. A lot of companies are committed to make it happen. Because let's be honest, it's no longer should we, would we must, because it's the only right thing to do. But also let's not forget the situation the hotels find themselves in. They're all climbing out of huge financial holes. Like Zach says, the first thing they have to do is assure that the guests and the employees are going to be absolutely safe. Implementing these protocols are expensive. They're very expensive. They don't come free, right? So hotels might, for a short period of time, have to take a back step and say, let's get our priorities right. First priority, safety, employees and guests, right? So I think it might have to take a back step, except for companies like Six Senses, that has been the front runner and that's miles ahead of everybody. Lately, I was in a hotel, a couple of months ago before I got locked in. I was in a hotel and the GM was very proud that he had just changed his plastic straws to biodegradable straws. And I said, do you know when Six Senses did that? He said, no idea. 2 years ago, 14 years ago, right? Just to tell you how far ahead of the game, because it's in their DNA, right?
Yeah. And I think, and if I can just say that, as we go into a possible situation where there's going to be discounting possibly, right? Hotels want to offer, make themselves more attractive. One of the things that I've been trying to get to consider is, rather than offering a 10% discount, or if you're going to discount, then why not take a slice of that and just contribute that to a community? Because I think the traveler will look at the options and say, well, here I have a great discount, but here I have a lesser discount, or maybe it's a little bit, but I'm contributing. I'm helping take food to the community next door. I am building something. I'm helping in some way. And there I could be proud of that trip. And I think that's where I agree with you. There is tremendous need to look internal first. But as a lot of hotels strategize their pricing, I think they need to give value to that contribution, and just allocate it to something that the traveler can feel proud of. Sylvio, you had something to say.
No, one thing that keeps me bothering me, I've been thinking a lot since the way of life that we've been having. I think everybody's thinking about that. And the great cities that we live with 20 million people, with 18 million people, that was the model that the last century brought us to what we have today. But we need to rethink that. We've been the way we drive every day, the way we've been seeing some numbers that the big city with big pollution are having bigger problems with the COVID-19. So the coronavirus, the pandemic thing. So I would think that, and with this experience of having these digital platforms, why would I go far from the city? If I drive 2 hours from the city, for example, I'm here 2 hours from the big city, in the countryside, breathing good air and still working a lot. So I think that's a trend to offer the hotels to offer this environmental for people for long stays, and they continue working. You continue being productive, having meetings, and for a long stay within or more integrated with the nature. I think that's a good call. I totally agree with Zach. That's the first call that we have. If we don't change our manners, if we don't change the way we occupy our planet, we'll have big problems. I totally agree.
Yeah, no, I'm glad we're all seeing on the same page. I want to just wrap up by asking, I know Zach is going to have to leave us because he has a commitment, but I wanted to just leave, if you can all just summarize the talk. And I always say, if everybody forgot everything that we discussed, let's imagine the audience can't remember anything, but they're going to remember one message from you, one important thing that you want them to take away. What would that be? And Zach, I'm going to start with you because I know you're on a clock. What is your message?
Sure. I think that it's the same message that brought me to this industry, that made me who I am. And not to be cliche, but it's not the destination, it's the journey. And it's how we get through this that matters. It's how we are able to lead ourselves, our families, our businesses, in a way that we'll feel proud about. And what happens on the other side, we're not sure. And that's probably the biggest challenge of all, is the uncertainty. We don't know, but if we do this in a way that we'll feel proud of, if we stay positive, I think that we'll get through it. And we will get through it. And it doesn't matter where we go, because we can't control that. So to stay positive, to believe in the transformative power of travel, and we're definitely going to be stronger together through this.
I couldn't agree more. Philip, what's your message?
From personal experience, as I said too early, I've spoken to so many people, and I'm guilty myself. I'm anxious. A lot of people are worrying. So Worrying is a bad thing because worrying does not relieve the tensions of today, but it takes away your energy for tomorrow. So we need to make sure not to worry too much. And if we do, only about things we can control.
I think that's a wise message for now and for always, right?
Tina, I'm sorry, I do have to jump off. And to everyone,
know.
thank you so much. And I love seeing and being with
Great.
all of you. And keep in touch. Stay strong and positive.
Bye, Zach.
Thank you.
Love you, Zach.
Bye, Zach.
Love you. Bye, guys.
So I'll jump over to Sylvio, and this time, Valerie, I'm going to keep you for last. Otherwise, they're going to think that I'm, have a preference.
My message will be simple. Keep dreaming about your next trip.
Yes, I like that. That's what we hope everybody in your situation is doing and getting ready to travel. So that's simple and to the point. Valerie, tell us your message.
Well, Sylvio stole it away from me. I was going to say, just keep dreaming where your next trip are and start planning your wander list and think of 5 destinations or 5 places you want to return to and share that with your families and your friends and your business colleagues. And there's no question, we are going to come out of this stronger than we went into it. I can vividly remember 9/11 in New York and watching the towers go down from my office. And at that time, we thought the world of travel was going to end. Well, that's 20 years ago, and we're stronger and bigger and better than ever. And fortunately, the luxury market is the strongest one of all. So Tina, thank you so very much for doing this. And
no, it's my
see everybody.
It's my pleasure. I wanted to ask if you guys can stay on a little minute, I wanted to open it to the Q&A of the audience. So just get some questions in. I'm going to choose one here, just because we've talked about so many of them. And this is, I think, one. There's a lot of questions when it comes to airlines, and I want to I know that you're all very much in touch with that reality. This question is from Colleen. With social distancing becoming a norm, do you think that private air factual ownership will surge? This is a question that's very important because there is a concept that it will surge, but whenever I speak to professionals that have their hands in the pulse, the fixed cost is rather always high. So I don't know if anybody wants to dive into this question.
Well, very briefly, I think they have a great opportunity because for the moment, if you look at the prices of private jets, they have come down 40–50%. Of course, when the airlines finally start up, because let's not forget that the airlines are basically the key to the recovery, I'm sure that they're going to be combining flights and make sure that they're going to assure that they maximize load factors. So I think there will still be, in the beginning of the recovery, quite a few flights that will be canceled and where clients say, listen, if the price is right for private jets, let's do it. Or on a share basis, which is more affordable than people think. So yes, I think there's a good opportunity for them.
Yeah, I think there will definitely be that demand as well. I'm going to ask a question from Eddie Salazar, and I think this one could be interesting for Sylvio or for Valerie, or also Philip. Is this a good time to invest in high-end tourism, more specific, building a small-end hotel in a location such as, for example, Galapagos?
I love the concept, the digital concept of light assets platforms. So we are in the time when there's a lot of assets is going to be available. That's the nature of the crisis. Isn't bad or good. To adapt an actual business, I would go for looking for what is available in the industry. For instance, my industry that I study was the car industry. There's 50% how can I say, that's just 50% of the total production. It's available, or it's being used. So there will be a lot of hotels, there will be a lot of structures that will be available to use. I would not go for construction right now. I would go for looking for things that is still there, and try and stress asset, and it would adapt. That would be my call for that.
That's a very good point. I had a great conversation with Alinho, who's the COO of the Little Nell Hospitality Company, and they were saying how they're really looking right now as a moment to expand their portfolio, to go beyond, the ski world. And I think it's a great opportunity for investors to expand their portfolio, and it's a bad way to say it, but maybe taking advantage of the situation to maybe, instead of building, purchasing. That's a very good point. Valerie, I have one here for you. Do you believe that luxury villas and hotel vacational rental will have a better recovery than hotels? And what about the recovery of small boutique hotels versus the big property? This is from Yasmin Alvarado.
Again, it's a multiple question, but I'm going to jump back in the old one, the first one that Sylvio just answered a touch, because back in 1989 or something like that, I was looking at buying a hotel in Ravello, Italy, and I got cold feet, and it later became Orient Express and now the Belmont Caruso. So I don't often admit to mistakes, but I am a frustrated hotelier. I do not think I would start from scratch and build it up. I would find an incredible building or a place or a destination. I still kick myself regularly that I didn't buy that Belvedere Caruso. I think
I know it's true, because I've heard you mention that before, so I can imagine it's something that you think about often.
Well, and that's probably why I'm so opinionated when I sit on hotel advisory boards, because I really wanted to be a hotelier instead of a travel advisor or owning a travel company. I think that one has to look at opportunities no matter what sector in the world we're looking at. And when there are economic conditions like now, there will be wonderful opportunities to invest. And if one can do it, I think you should always dream on to bigger and better things.
That's a very well put, and I think it's a wonderful way for us to end the panel. I wanted to thank you so much for coming on. Filip, Sylvio, Valerie, thank you so much. The point and the objective of the TL Talks is to give our industry and every industry that's suffering through this crisis a voice of a positive light, a light at the end of the tunnel, a reason to wake up and feel motivated to look at the transformations and the opportunities ahead. And I thank you for your help and motivating us. I think the energy that you share is phenomenal, and I could not thank you enough for being here. So I send you all a big virtual hug. Many kisses.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Have a nice weekend.
Bye, Valerie. Bye, Tina.
Bye.
Stay healthy, everybody.
You too. Stay safe.
Yeah.